You take your time. I'm just making sure everything is working the way it's supposed to.
Alrighty.
And, you know, all that sort of stuff.
And
Uh,
everything is working the way it's supposed to.
yeah, your audience will see it in a moment. You are live. Apparently, we're live.
Woohoo! We
Woohoo!
are live.
I've been using YouTube Gaming a lot today to
Yeah.
see how that is, and
Hmm.
I like it a lot.
Well, that's good.
You know why I like it a lot?
Why?
Because it's so much easier to use. And I feel like maybe I should bring this camera a little closer.
Zoom. So, I was totally thrown off. I texted you, obviously, and was thrown off about
Yes.
everything. I was like, what is going on, Ben? I don't understand. But
Yeah.
we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
We will absolutely get into it, I am sure. Am I still in frame for you?
Yeah.
It's hard for me to turn and computer screens over there. So it's kind of like a pain. Oh, look at that. Look at how sexy I am. Oh, look at me.
All right. Let's do this. Are you ready?
I'm born ready, Amanda. Born ready.
All right. Sitting atop the watchtower in Gotham City, the Nerdy Knights are here to bring you some great comic book content. I'm one of your hosts. Some say I am an oracle, but everyone can say that they've never seen me and Batgirl in the same room at the same time together. My name's Amanda Kane, and he comes in like a flash of lightning with his quick wit and dashing good looks, Mr. Ben Riddick.
Hey, how's it going, Amanda?
Hi! So, we are about to discuss our second issue of Nightly Novels.
So
I got this
exciting.
time.
We made
I
it we
know.
made it past the first one, and now
We
we've made
did.
it to the second one.
It took a little time, and I apologize. It's mostly my fault. For those of you who don't know me very well, I'm actually moving across country. Currently, I live in New York, and I'm moving to California, and I have to do it in like a 14-day time span. So,
That sounds
I
really, really exciting, Amanda.
it's really exciting, but also really stressful.
You
I have
know,
like 7 days
we're gonna
left.
have to start doing these shows live in person.
We should.
We
We
could get the
will.
books and like be able to flip through them and show pictures
Hold them up and
and
shove
use the
them
whole
up.
screen instead of both of us being in little boxes on the screen.
That would be awesome. And we can like read it to people at the same
We
time
could
in
in
awesome like character voices.
oh, can we could do character voices? We could like read our favorite pages
Yeah.
and be the character. Oh God, I'm so excited, Amanda.
I feel like we'll also be wearing like Mr. Rogers sweaters and sitting aside a
Oh my gosh,
fireplace.
could we need to do that? We should make Mr. Rogers sweaters. Oh my God, Amanda, you're a genius. And then when we become super famous and popular, people will send us their own hand knit sweaters, and we'll wear those on the show.
Yeah, and if they could send them with like our appropriate symbols on them, that'd be awesome. So like make mine a Batgirl sweater
And
and
make
yours
mine a
a
Flash.
Flash
Oh
sweater. It'd be
God, that'd be.
perfect. And like crocheted sweater. Oh my god, it'd be great.
Amanda, you just like completely blew my mind. I don't know if I can do this show anymore tonight. I think we're done. It
We're
was a
done.
great episode, guys. Next week the book's going to be uh,
We're just gonna create a book. We got
yeah, exactly.
this.
We're gonna write it ourselves and then expect you to have read it by next episode.
You have to like use some superpowers.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Alrighty.
should we actually talk
It's
about the
all.
comic book? What
Yeah.
what was the book this week,
So
Amanda?
the book we read this week was X-Men Days of Future Past,
Really
which
exciting.
is your favorite, I believe. We talked
It's
about this.
one of
One
my
of them.
favorites. It's
Yeah,
way up there in my list of favorite books.
of favorites. So, and for me, I have actually never read it before, so it was very, very new and exciting
Which
for
is actually
me.
really exciting for this episode because last episode we did a book that neither of us had read,
Right.
and this week we're doing a book that I have read but you have not.
And I feel like we're not gonna agree on the score at the end.
I have a
So,
feeling we're probably not, but let's. I want to let me hear your initial reaction. What what did you
Okay.
like? What didn't you like?
Well, how about you start with a book summary first?
Okay, so X-Men: Days of Future Past. First off, the book picks up immediately after the Dark Phoenix saga. So we just experienced the death of Jean Grey, and Cyclops has decided to leave the X-Men, which means that Storm, or Aurora, is now the leader of the X-Men, with Professor X still around, but she is the, field leader of the X-Men, so to speak. Um, and the first couple issues kind of bring together why all of a sudden um, there's no Cyclops, and they start to introduce this new character, Kitty Pryde, who is the age of a high schooler, but is incredibly smart. So she's like college level intellect and all that sort of stuff. And they discover that she has the power to walk through walls. So she gets sent to the Xavier Institute in Westchester, and it starts to show her relationship with start to build with the X-Men. Like, she's absolutely terrified of Nightcrawler because he looks creepy, and just in general she feels out of place. It then kind of fast forwards. This takes place in the year 1980. It all of a sudden then fast forwards to the year 2013, in a post-apocalyptic, like, dystopian future where essentially Sentinels have taken over the whole of North America, and pretty much all of the X-Men are dead, save for Kitty Pryde, who is in the future called Kate. Wolverine is still alive, Colossus and Storm. And there's the introduction of a couple of new mutants. We are introduced to I think this is actually the first appearance of Rachel Summers, which was the daughter of Jean and Cyclops. I'm pretty sure. I'm doubting it, but I'm 99.9% sure that is accurate. She, in a different timeline, actually becomes a carrier of the Phoenix Force. Different story, though. You discover that she is there, and all of the mutants that are alive are kind of kept in internment camps, very similar to like the World War II Japanese internment camps, or the what are those other things called? Concentration camps. And Sentinels are kind of using mutants as slaves to go do certain runs and projects and things like that. And the whole world is kind of on the brink of a nuclear holocaust because the rest of the world does not agree with what the Sentinels are doing, holding all these mutants prisoner, but the Sentinels have been programmed with this directive to kill all mutants, and anyone that stands in their way. So essentially, the X-Men of the future have about 24 hours to fix things. Otherwise, the Sentinels and the rest of the world are going to launch a bunch of nuclear bombs, and everything's just probably going to die. The world's going to end. Yada 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 yada. So, Rachel Summers is the only telepath left because Charles Xavier is dead. She sends Kitty Pryde, or Kate Pryde, back to the past, via like her soul. She sends her mind back to her own body, but the younger self. And her directive is to essentially stop this future from happening. And what starts the world on this course is the assassination of Senator Kelly, who, huge anti-mutant person. So essentially that's what sparks this entire war. And then she goes into the past. They go essentially save him from the Mutant Brotherhood, who's attempting to assassinate him, and then she immediately gets thrown into the future. We don't see the new future, and Kitty Pryde has no recollection of what happened. So that's kind of the very quick summary on that book. Give me 1 second, Amanda. I left the door open.
Oh.
Sorry.
I can't hear a word you're saying. Now I can. Maybe? Nope. Nothing.
Not going to lie. I felt mildly foolish. I look over, front door is still wide open.
Huh.
Go me. Go me. Hi,
I was
everyone, I'm
like,
back.
I don't know if I should talk or if I should just be awkwardly quiet. I'm gonna go with awkwardly quiet and just
Nice.
kind of sit here.
I could probably cut that out in post. We're at 10
That's
minutes and 40 seconds. As a matter of fact, you know what I'll do? I'll type that in here. 10 minutes, 40 seconds, just so that I know that I messed up.
Alright.
So that's the summary of the book, Amanda.
Thanks!
I hope that was helpful to you.
That was helpful to me, being that I already read it. But, it was helpful to everybody else who didn't read it or, is listening to this
Exactly.
in the future.
Everybody loved this.
Everybody loved it.
Mm-hmm.
So prior to the book summary, you asked me how I felt about the book, I believe.
Yeah.
Something to that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like I was a toddler being held, like my hand held while I was walking down the street. That's how I felt.
Well, so one thing that you have to kind of get with this book is I forget what year the book was written, but it is a much older style of comic books. It's not the same kind of graphic novel arc that we see nowadays that span several months. I mean, back then they had to keep people interested over the course of, just a couple issues. That's why you'll notice that the collected edition had a bunch of extra issues in it, and that Days of Future Past really only took place over 2 issues.
Right.
So it is a different time, I think, for the comics. And you'll actually notice, like, a lot of what happens in this book is there's a lot of descriptions in case, people are just jumping into the book, and they are literally describing every character every time you see them, essentially.
The thing that drove me nuts, and like you said, because it is kind of the time period, like the age and everything that the comic was written in, but you would see this happening on the panel, but they would still feel the need to put a little blurb on it. I'm trying to think of one scenario.
I can think of one scenario where Avalanche is breaking the thing that Blob is about to hit Pyro with. And it just explains, Avalanche just used his powers to disintegrate this rocky block.
Right. And
Is
it
that
was
what
you
you're
can
talking about?
kind of tell. And when he and Nightcrawler were fighting, and it was well, Nightcrawler got the advantage by poofing
I'm
multiple
sorry.
times and then appearing
Poofing?
behind him.
It's
Poofing.
bantfing.
Yeah, teleporting.
Okay.
That's the word I wanted. Poofing. Well, it looked like a big poof. Teleporting behind him and punching him in the face. So they had drawn the shadow of Nightcrawler in each of these positions, and then you saw him punching Avalanche in the face. And it's I could kind of already tell that was happening behind, and then, and then the punch in the face kind of. If anyone's watching this, I'm actually hand motioning all of this. And then the punch in the face happened, and it was I don't know why you needed to tell that to me, or Avalanche used his powers, which, by the way, his name is Avalanche. What exactly do you think his powers are? If they were Avalanche has the ability to control the Earth's, they had to explain everything, make earthquakes and all this stuff, and it's there's a panel of him, grabbing the Earth and, throwing it like this. And kind of what that parachute we used to do in in elementary school, not
in
high school.
God, what high school did you go to? I want to go there.
But so what I don't understand, his name is Avalanche. You see him yanking the ground up and creating, like basically like a landslide and an avalanche. Like, why do I need an explanation in terms of what he's doing? And I just thought, like you said before, obviously it's based upon like the age in which the comic was written, but I really felt like, maybe I don't know. I felt like they have
No, I get
no
it.
confidence in their readers' intelligence during that
I get
time.
it. I mean, think about who was reading comic books at that time, though. It wasn't adults as
This,
much. I feel like comic book readers nowadays are more adults than they are kids. So they're a lot more easily able to grasp these concepts. Um, Whereas I think now that then with them being kids, it was a better idea to kind of excuse me, explain everything. But that's obviously it doesn't age as well as I remembered it. Um, so I do kind of agree. The book has some very nostalgic, it pulls at my nostalgia strings in my heart. So it still holds that place because growing up, one of the first cartoons I ever watched was the X-Men cartoon, which of course got me really interested in the X-Men comics. And
right.
this was one of the first X-Men comics that I read. Came out in '81, by the way. And I loved it at the time, and I just had very, very fond memories of it. And I still really enjoyed it. Like, it is a great, I think, putting all of that aside, it's still a great story. And it's a very interesting way to introduce the new character of Kitty Pryde.
Yeah.
Essentially, we're seeing brand new character Kitty Pryde, and they're showing us fully developed character Kitty Pryde at the same time.
Right.
So I think it's very interesting that they did that, and I think it was a cool way to introduce the new character. Unlike how they introduced Wolverine, where you just knew nothing about him at all.
This is Wolverine. Yay.
And then you don't even find out until this comic. Oh, his name's Logan, by the way.
Yeah. By the way, he's got a real name.
Yeah, it's not just Wolverine.
um, and I think the other problem that I had with it, I guess, was everything was a thought. Like, I felt like there was less conversation and more thought bubbles. And I wanted it to be the opposite. Like, just there's like one where Storm did a whole like in head monologue and then was like, "Go do this" to the
Yeah.
X-Men. And it's just like they didn't hear you. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I heard you. But I think that was like the only other thing that I was just kind of like, can this have a little more dot? If you're gonna put all this word usage in here, can
Uh,
you make it more dialogue and less
and
thinking
less thought. Yeah.
and yeah, less thought that doesn't necessarily piece together and less like explaining everything to me as we go.
I feel like a lot of, again, the earlier comics were like that, though. Like, when you read the first, like, I want to say, like, 100 issues of Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, which, just so everyone knows, I have read every single issue of Amazing Spider-Man from beginning to present. So, kind of an expert on Spider-Man. The first 100 or so issues of that, there's a lot of thought bubbles too. So I'm wondering, maybe it has to do with the time again, or I do believe Chris Claremont also did a run of Spider-Man early on, so I
Yeah,
might be thinking of that.
maybe it was
Because
his.
as a writer, he might be one that is more prone um, to thought bubbles.
I guess, I mean, realistically, like our head is constantly thinking and producing thought, so
Yeah.
hopefully, anyway. So
Hopefully, maybe.
so it's I mean, I guess like it makes sense because you're always thinking and you're always having these like dialogues and these conversations in your head. so I guess in that sense it makes perfect sense, sort of. Um,
In that sense, it makes sense.
yeah, in that sense it makes sense.
Sense,
But
sense, sense.
for I don't know, for a reader, I feel like it's less appealing to have them constantly thinking these things instead of saying these things and then doing these things.
I get
It
it.
was more, I'm thinking about all this stuff.
Absolutely.
I'm not doing it.
I gotcha. I'm picking up what you're throwing down, Amanda.
That's good. Well, we just had a whole conversation to each other in our heads.
In our heads, exactly. Sorry, I don't quite know how to insert the thought bubbles into the stream yet, but I'll
I feel
let you
like I
know.
should have made one and
It
like help.
was really exciting. It was riveting thought conversation.
Yeah, it was got it.
Um, so what did you think of the characters though?
I really liked. I guess I really liked some of them and didn't really like others. Obviously, like it was geared towards Kitty and like
Hmm.
the introduction of Kitty and the development of Kitty, and I enjoyed that aspect of it quite a bit.
Hmm.
Just watching her like at a mature stage. So let me start over. When I bought this on the Kindle,
Oh, you
which
got a digital book?
I know, but I was going to my cousin's wedding and I didn't want to carry extra stuff. I was bringing my iPad
Did you at
anyways.
least use our Amazon affiliate link? No, you didn't, did you?
I'll have to do it next time if I do. um, so anyway, my bad.
It's all good. This episode brought to you by Amazon.
I
Anyways,
still bought it on Amazon. Those were good. So I skipped. Obviously, I texted you and I was like, "What is going on?" Because
yeah,
I
I
was.
got that text message. First off, let me tell you how much I was a little freaked out. I got that text message today. I was like, oh, she hasn't read it yet. Shit.
I like fly through those though. Like
Gotcha.
it just takes me like if I got 2 hours of time to sit down and just read them, then that's all I need. That way too, it's fresh in my head right now anyway. So,
Absolutely.
um,
I did my quick run through right before we started the show.
see,
Yeah.
but you've already read it before.
Yeah,
So.
I've read it before.
But so I texted you and I'm just like, I'm really confused. Like, why do I care about Cyclops? Because A, I don't ever. I've never
no,
cared
no
about
one ever
Cyclops.
cares about Cyclops. Until he
Um,
murders Charles Xavier, no one cares about Cyclops.
Sorry, Scott Summers,
Yeah.
but I'm not sorry.
He's not a very interesting character, that's why.
No. So I kind of skipped like the first issue. Not gonna lie. Kind of skipped it a little bit.
That first issue, though, it's like, here is everything that has happened in the X-Men from issue 1 to now, and we're going to cram it into 20 pages.
Yeah.
So I get that. It's the most unnecessary kind of prologue.
Right. And I know enough about X-Men that I didn't need to read that. I knew about Jean Grey, I knew about Phoenix, all that stuff. So I didn't need that extra warm up, I guess. So I skipped to it because I didn't know what was going on. And I texted you and I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on right now. And I found where it actually said, like, started Days of Future Past. Read the issue before that, read Days of Future Past, and then read till the end. And so I liked. I don't know where I was going with this. Where was I going with this? So I liked the development of Kitty as a character and the fact that it showed her at a mature stage and then back to the still discovering my powers, still trying to figure out what I'm doing, like being the typical Kitty that everyone who
Absolutely.
reads comics and watch the movies is used to now. The girl that accidentally falls through the wall or falls through the floor, that kind of stuff. So it was nice to see that and to get that. I also really enjoyed the humor that they threw in, making fun of Wolverine's height, like every other
Oh,
panel.
dude, Wolverine is so short.
He takes so much of a beating. They're just calling him short stuff and all
Yep.
sorts of stuff the entire comic. So I really love that. And I loved. At first, I was a little rocky with Colossus. but I ultimately loved his development, like as it continued further.
Especially when you see like future him and you see like this incredibly like they are two different characters. There's this character that's incredibly like I mean they even say it in the book. He's a much gentler character than a big metal man might seem.
Right.
But then like in the future, now all of his friends and family are literally dead. You know, he's just like he's been jaded and has become this like not necessarily monster, but he's a
Like very
completely
coarse, yeah.
yeah. I mean, a very very cool character. I agree. I think as
And
far
I
as
think
side characters go, he kind of steals the
Steel,
comic.
yeah. And like you really saw that too when Kitty accidentally walks into the training room.
Yeah,
You know, the door's unlocked and he's like, "Okay, I gotta catch her. I gotta take care of her, but I can't do it when I'm metal because it'll hurt her."
yeah,
So
and I
he's like,
mean
"I gotta hope they're not paying attention to me and catch her as a human." And
exactly.
then later on, he's just like, "I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna punch you out this building."
Yep, exactly. That's exactly what the line says. I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna punch you out of the building. Except in a Russian accent, which I'm not even going to attempt to do.
Yeah, I kind of was like, nope, not going there. I don't think I can. I don't. Oop, and I'm dropping things. I don't think I can.
And I do love the chemistry between Kitty and Colossus. Like, you don't get to see like all of the in between character development, but they're easily like one of my favorite ex couples. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, just to kind of go back to the overall feeling of the book, I had very fond memories of X-Men the animated series as well. Um, I don't know. Did you ever see the X-Men animated series,
Yeah.
Amanda?
I really enjoyed the animated series. I don't
Not
think I watched the entire thing.
not
Um,
Evolution, but the late
the
'80s,
actual,
early '90s one.
yeah. I've watched both of them.
Have you gone back
But
and watched it recently?
no.
Oh my god, that show is terrible. Absolutely horrendous. Pretty much the entire show. Cyclops talks like this all the time. Now, I am going to talk more like this because I am the leader of the X-Men. Come, X-Men, let us go fight Magneto. Magneto is trying to kill the world. You know, that is pretty much exactly how Cyclops sounds the entire series. And
Oh God.
I have to say the hokiness of that definitely comes out in Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Um, so, what was your favorite part of the book?
92. I was looking to see when the series came out. 1992,
1992.
October. Yeah.
Wow, such a
I
good
didn't watch
show.
it then because I would have been like 3,
I did watch it then,
4,
and I
but
was also 3 or
or 4.
4.
I don't remember what I was doing at 3 or 4, but I don't think I was watching X Men.
It was I love X-Men. I mean, my parents actually find me as a traitor because I like DC so much more than I like Marvel, and I got
Yeah.
my start on X-Men. So
You traitor!
I
You switch sides.
that's exactly what they tell me. I am a traitor. But do you want to talk about your favorite part of the book? Did you have a favorite part of the book? Or were you just reading it saying, God, when is this going to end?
Up until a certain point, yes, I was reading it like, God, this is when is this gonna end? And then when it started to pick up in terms of like when they started to go, like when she finally got into the past
Mhm.
and remembered who she was, and obviously the whole interaction with the training session
Mhm.
was awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but like I really didn't get further, like I really didn't get invested, I guess, into it until they like met up with Senator Kelly and met up with Charles Xavier.
Mhm.
And then after I kind of had like a little self reflection going, okay, this is what I liked, this is what I didn't like. um, So, in terms of a favorite part, I don't think I have anything that really like jumps out at me per se.
I can.
There's things that I enjoyed.
Mm,
Um, so obviously we talked a little bit last time about how I didn't like the X-Men movie. I didn't like the Days of Future Past movie.
yeah,
And
we
it
did talk
wasn't
about that.
because it didn't stick to the comic, because obviously we all know it didn't.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean similar concept, but
right. Similar idea. So I think one of the things that I liked is they still kept there was still that connection in terms of like who the villains were per se.
yeah,
Like Mystique
it
was
was.
still technically, and the Brotherhood was still after. So you still got to watch see like the development of Mystique, who's actually one of my favorite of the villains. So,
She's a very
um,
cool character.
yeah, she is. Um, so I guess, but I mean that's still not really a favorite part. I guess I kind of just liked the connection
Hmm.
between the two in
No,
that sense. Because
I
obviously I didn't like the movie. So.
um my favorite part was has to be the entire part where they're in the Baxter building in the future, trying to shut down all of the Sentinels, and I mean it's weird that it's my favorite part, but it's a very like gut wrenching moment because you have what's left of the X-Men charging into this room as a final hurrah to give Kitty that little bit of extra time to hopefully change the future. Um, and I mean, you watch. I mean, Wolverine runs into the room and essentially immediately gets disintegrated.
Filleted, like.
Um, yeah, and all that is left is his adamantium skeleton. And it's like everyone's giving their like. It's just It's always interesting to me to see when a character has so accepted death as like the only option for what's going to happen, so they kind of give it their all. It's one of those same reasons why I liked the ending of Harry Potter so much.
Right.
It's like he goes in there, he's like, you know what, this is what I got to do, and this is what's going to fix everything. Um, so I just thought it's incredibly intense to read through something like that, and I thought they did a really good job showing that. And I don't think me as a child really picked up on that, but rereading it now, it's like, wow,
Right.
I read this.
Yeah, 'cause they're basically like putting their complete and total faith into the fact that Kitty's gonna, if they do this and they face death, Kitty's gonna be able to fix it because they're giving her an extra 5 minutes of time or
Yeah,
whatever. So it's like you said, it's like that acceptance and that come to terms of like, okay, I'm gonna do this in hopes that it fixes things.
but
Otherwise, I'm just dead.
yeah,
Like,
but I have absolutely no way of knowing for sure.
right. But I have
Um,
to face that fear. I
and I
have to
think like
conquer
one of
that.
the other great things about this book is that they don't show the future world again after all that.
Right.
That is the last you see of it. So as a reader, you have absolutely no idea of if what you had read stopped that future from happening. Especially when the epilogue is Senator Kelly meeting with Sebastian Shaw,
Right.
which, for those of you who don't know who Sebastian Shaw is, he is the character in the first X-Men. What was that one called? First Class. Um, he was that villain. Essentially created the oh my god, the Hellfire Club, which is even worse than the Brotherhood of Mutants because they're just a lot more destructive.
Yeah, I always kind of pictured the Brotherhood of Mutants as like a bunch of rogues
Hmm.
who didn't really, almost like teenage kids who are rioting against their parents, whereas like the Hellfire Club was like a bunch of grown adults who know their powers and they know how things work and they don't need to necessarily be taught that are coming in and just destroying everything.
Absolutely. I agree with that sentiment. Um, and it's like it's a very intense book. Comparing it to the movie, I mean there are some huge differences. I mean, first off,
Just
uh,
don't.
um, I'm just going to mention the big
No,
differences.
I think you should mention the differences. I just don't think any reader should read it and then go see the movie because, or vice versa, because they'll be severely disappointed with the way that one the other works if they're expecting it to be any
I
comparison.
think so. I think if X Men Days of Future Past gets you interested in X Men, I might recommend just as a basis of getting into the series. It's like there are a few books of X Men that I tell everyone they need to read, and that's the Phoenix Saga, the Dark Phoenix Saga, um, the I mean Days of Future Past is one of them, and the other one I always forget the name of. God Loves, Man Kills. Those are like the four quintessential X Men books that you need to read before you get into the more modern stuff. And if X Men Days of Future Past, the movie, is the movie that gets you interested in the world, I still think that X Men Days of Future Past is one that you should read. Just so you can see the difference. Um, the there are huge differences. For example, in the movie, um, Wolverine gets sent into the past, and there's a huge gap between past and future. Like between 1980 and 2013, it's a 30-year difference, and then we're talking like 1960 and past 2013. So I mean, it's a huge time difference, and Kitty gets sent back instead, and then they completely knock out the character of Rachel Summers in the movie, which I understand because it's not a character that's been introduced at all,
Right.
and fine,
And they still had to kind of tie it to Kitty somehow, like
exactly,
making it relevant.
um, and uh, instead of Rachel Summers being the one that sends Kitty back, it's Kitty being the one that sends Wolverine back. And I will say that is an issue I had with the movie. Where the fuck
Hmm.
did Kitty get these powers?
Yeah, like what does
It's like,
just
what does phasing have to do with sending someone's
now you can
mind into the
phase someone
past?
through time?
Yeah, that made no sense to me, but the rest of the movie made up for it, in my opinion. Um, and I mean, they're still essentially trying to stop Sentinels from being created or turned into this incredibly huge monster. But there's no Brotherhood of Mutants in Days of Future Past the movie. It's just Mystique. So those are really the main differences. Which did you like better, Amanda?
The comic.
Really?
Hmm.
What did you hate about the movie so much?
I just didn't. It was actually like more of a movie thing, not necessarily because obviously I hadn't read the comic before, so I
Mhm.
couldn't sit there and generally speaking, try and separate. If this is a movie,
Absolutely.
this is a book. I try and separate them and view them as their own thing. But it just didn't. Like I wasn't into it. I don't know. The action didn't really thrill me at all. I felt my biggest thing is the X-Men. Fox has been doing X-Men so long that I'm actually kind of bored of the characters that they're giving me. I want to see different
But
characters.
this was like their way of rebooting it so they could show you different characters.
Almost, yeah. I mean, I'm sort of excited for this one
The Age
because
of Apocalypse,
because I think it's definitely
another
got more.
quintessential X-Men read, which
Right.
I think before that movie comes out, we should probably just make that the mandatory
Read.
pre-movie week episode. Does that make sense? Does that
Yeah,
sentence make sense?
sure.
Okay.
We could read it, do the podcast, and then go see the midnight showing
Exactly. That
because we'll
works
be
for
in the
me.
same time zone and
Oh
it'll
my
work.
god, Amanda. And we
Yeah.
can wear our sweaters.
Which might be a little confusing if we're wearing DC
Who
sweaters to a Marvel
cares?
movie. We'll get thrown out. um, so I guess I am excited for that one because you are going to see um
A brand new
other
villain.
characters whose names just went
Well, you're going
over
to see
like
Jubilee, you're going to
Jubilee.
see Psylocke. You're
Yes.
going to see Jean Grey as I hope she was meant to be portrayed and not by Famke Janssen. I hate that woman. Her portrayal of Jean Grey was just terrible. Just want to throw that out there.
just throwing that out there.
In case you were wondering, I found it to be absolutely horrendous. I enjoyed Cyclops' character more in the movies than Jean Grey's, which is saying a lot. Because you don't just like Cyclops.
You don't just willingly like Cyclops.
Um,
But I guess so. I'm excited to see more characters, and I'm ready for it to not be a Wolverine movie. Like I realize Wolverine has his own movies, but every movie is centered around Wolverine, and I understand. Like, okay, yeah, Hugh Jackman, gorgeous, we got it. He looks nice. It's great.
he
He
wasn't
looks
in
good
first
on
class
screen.
except for like 10 seconds.
This is true. This is true. And I love Magneto, and I love Charles Xavier. So both as oh my god, Ian McKellen and Patrick
Patrick Stewart?
Stewart.
You mean Sir Ian McKellen and Sir Patrick Stewart?
So Patrick
They
Stewart.
have been knighted.
This is true. I should use the proper terms.
Yes.
And then also as the younger men whose names I always forget. I'm really bad at names of anyone.
Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy. Those are the actors' names.
Exactly. I wouldn't have gotten
Which, real quick side note, Michael Fassbender, they just revealed the first image for Assassin's Creed where Michael Fassbender is playing the assassin. Looks awesome. The picture
Looks
looks awesome.
I would be like super okay with a Magneto movie.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a plan. Like, that was something that was on Fox's radar. Like, that was
Not
what was
fun,
supposed
but-
to follow Wolverine Origins, is they were going to do a whole slew of Origins movies. And then instead they did First Class, which I'm glad they did, because I loved First Class. That felt like an epic X-Men movie.
I just felt like it could have, and it should have been way better.
Okay.
Could have, and it should have.
Coulda, shoulda.
Could have, should have. So let's go Age of Apocalypse, because I'll still go see them all at midnight release.
Oh,
It doesn't matter,
absolutely.
because it's a comic book movie. The only movie
Absolutely.
I haven't seen at midnight release was the new Fantastic Four movie.
Have you seen that yet?
No, and I don't plan on it.
Okay. I haven't seen it yet either, but you should absolutely check out not last week's. Actually, no, the last iTunes episode of Nerdy Nights Radio. We had Mike DeMarco on, and he wrote an entire article about why Fantastic Four was a horrendous piece of shit slathered in more shit.
I love how they're just like, well, we're okay with the fact that it was a piece of shit. We're still going to make you another one. Like, we're already making you another one.
Yeah,
We're okay with
that
this.
just like that. That's just,
We're okay.
that's one of the things that baffles me about that. They signed on. They signed up for a second movie before this one had even wrapped. It's like they were that confident, and yet there's this. Go read the article, go watch the episode, because there's a lot of information. There's a lot of drama around this. It's like even Fox is trying to sue the director for how terrible the movie came out, which I
Can
just
we sue him? Can we sue him for how bad that was?
it's just amazing. It's like the lead actor in that movie and the director almost like literally got into a fist fight.
Oh my god.
It's like it's amazing. So, do we want to give this one an overall rating, Amanda?
Yeah. Let's give it an overall rating.
I'm gonna go first real fast.
Yeah,
If
go,
you don't mind.
please. No.
I'm gonna give this book 2 separate ratings. Okay.
That's not an overall rating. That's two
No, hold on.
separate ratings.
I'm going to give it an overall rating, but my first rating is going to be the rating that I would give it if I hadn't reread it today
Okay.
and was just going off of my fond memories of it.
Okay.
Just going off of my fond memories of it, like before I started rereading today, I would have given this book probably an 8 out of 10. Just for how awesome it was to read at the time. And, I mean, part of why I liked it at the time was probably how similar it was to the incredibly cheesy cartoon, which I really encourage you to watch like 1 or 2 episodes of, Amanda, before the next time we record, just so I can hear your reaction about it. But having reread it and comparing it to all of the other X-Men books that I have read, I think I would probably give this book... I really don't want to give it a 5 out of 10, but I think that's where I'm going to sit it. Like, it's still in my... Maybe a 6 out of 10, because it's still in my mind as a book that you should read if you want to get into X-Men. Because it's a great book for that. Even if it's just the 2 issues, Days of Future Past, Part 1 and 2. But there are also many great X-Men novels out there that I would also highly recommend. Possibly even higher than this one, but now I feel I need to go back and reread some of the older ones to make sure
Before I recommend them.
Yeah. But I think 6 out of 10.
Okay, so what's your overall rating?
No,
Because
that is my overall rating. 6 out of 10.
That's not... Oh, overall is 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I guess we're not too terribly far off, because I expected you to be like, this book gets a 9 out of 10.
10 out of 10!
Go. Like, it's... No, I don't think I could ever see you picking 10 out of 10, Ben.
Okay.
I just don't... I don't think... You're too... There's too much critical in there. There's too much critical thinking in there to ever just be like, yeah, 10. Perfect in every way. So, but I expect you to be like, 9 out of 10. Let's go. We're done. End the episode.
The end.
And I was about to come in and be like, no, I gotta give this like a 5. And that's where I'm gonna put it. It's a 5 out of 10. The reason I'm putting it there is, let's see, pros would be, I loved the development of Kitty.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to say for the main character-wise, their character development was really good. And I also enjoyed the humor.
Yeah.
Obviously, my cons were like way too much unnecessary blurbage. But again, we do have to consider that's part of the time frame.
Yeah.
And there was another thing that I had that was a con and I just forgot it. But anyway, 5 out of 10 from me.
I also think, like, I kind of wish it were longer. Like, I feel
a little
like...
more developed or something.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't have minded seeing more of the future, and I wouldn't have minded seeing more build-up to the end. But again, it's unfortunate that the time period kind of does not allow for that, because everything kind of had to be done in a one-shot issue. Whenever they did big story arcs like that, there was sometimes a drop-off, and I understand that.
Right.
But, yeah. I won't fight you too much on that 5 out of 10. Like I said, if I hadn't reread it for this, which I'm always going to do, even if I've read a comic, I'm always going to reread it for this show. I think I would probably have fought you more on that, but you know, it doesn't hold up to the times as much as I would have liked it to. But there's still a little part of my heart right here that just says Days of Future Past.
Just says Days of Future Past.
Right there.
Sniffle. What would you think, just out of curiosity, being that you loved it then, if someone were to remaster it, I guess, in a way, and change it so that it's a little bit more up to date?
I'd rather see something new. Like that is 9 times out of 10 that is going to be my answer to those kinds of questions, is don't don't go remaking the past. Just stick
God, I
with the
really
new
wanted
thing.
to say don't go chasing waterfalls
Don't
right
go
now.
chasing waterfalls either, because I don't know how the rest of the song goes. Um, but I think if you're a huge Kitty fan, you're gonna love this book. But I don't think that this book is so. I don't think there's any comic book that is so important that it needs to be remade. And I mean, part of what makes comic books is the art. So it's like I wouldn't want that to be redone. I do feel like the art and the characters that Chris Claremont makes, and the art that God, what's his name? Terry Austin? Is that his name? I don't remember. Oh my god, this is gonna bother me. I need to look it up. I'm gonna grab the computer. I think the art that he did was great, and the characters that Chris Claremont made are equally great. Um, so that's what I have to say about that. John Byrne. That's what I meant. Terry Austin did the ink on it. John Byrne did all the penciling, but I mean, I don't think there's any comic book that I would ask be remastered. Is there any comic book you would say should be remastered, Amanda?
No.
Okay. So, that's my thought on that. Do you have anything else you want to say about it, or should we pick next week's comic?
I think we should pick next week's comic.
All right, then let's do this. Like I said, this week's episode is brought to you by Amazon. So Amazon's Echo is going to pick our next comic. Alexa, pick a number between 1 and 81.
Your random number between 1 and 81 is 45.
45, Amanda. I think this is one you picked because I don't recognize the name at all.
Okay.
The book is just called Lost at Sea.
Okay.
So that should be what you read this next week.
And for those of you who don't know what Lost at Sea is, it's actually written by Brian Lee O'Malley, the guy that wrote Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, I'm gonna like this.
So it's very, obviously the art style is very similar. It's going to be something to that, pretty much everyone that's ever loved Scott Pilgrim is going to be super happy with. It's one of two of his graphic novels that a lot of people don't think about because they're automatically like, yes, Brian Lee O'Malley wrote Scott Pilgrim. That's all I know. So I'm super excited to read it because it's actually about. I don't really want to ruin it. I won't summarize it yet, so
Yes,
you're gonna have to read it. It's fairly short, so it's a quick read.
I just now got it, so it is downloading as we speak.
Awesome.
So you want to
Brought
close
to you by Amazon.
Brought to you by Amazon. Yeah. By the way, guys, visit the website nkrn.org/nightly novels. Nightly-novels. I should probably know that URL by heart.
That's okay.
But I post a link, an Amazon link to the book that we're reading, and that does actually we get a percentage of you purchasing that if you go through our website to do it. So I would greatly appreciate it if you clicked on the link through the website to get the book so you can read along with us. You can do the rest of the closing out stuff.
Alrighty. Well, so I guess that brings us to another end of an issue, the end of the issue. So we'd like to thank you all for tuning in and hanging out with us for this issue and the second issue of Nightly Novels. Make sure you come back and hang out with us again for our third issue of Nightly Novels. Ideally, we're still hoping to do Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Next Thursday? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna keep up with this coming Thursday, and then for a little while after that, Amanda is going to be driving across country, so she probably will miss out on one one particular episode. But
maybe for that episode we can find someone to fill in, so we can still have a thing in between. We'll see. We might just do like a one-off silly
maybe
thing.
I'll podcast from the car.
You could, that's a great idea, Amanda. Podcast and drive.
Well, no. My roommate's coming too, so he could drive in on this podcast.
Perfect. You could just do it from your phone. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm really the one doing all the streaming part, so it's not even like you have to worry that much about really, really reliable internet connection. Just mildly reliable. So maybe that might work.
It might happen. You never know.
Yeah.
So remember, you guys can follow us on Twitter. You can find me at Wake Up Paramore. That's WAKEUPPARAMOUR. And you can also find me at Lipstick Nerds. It's another show that I do. And Ben, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter at BRidiculous, BRIDDICKULOUS. You can also find me on another show I host called Nerdy Nights Radio, also found on www.nkrn.org. We are on YouTube now. If you go to youtube.com/NKR Productions, you'll be able to find all of our shows, which are really fantastic. And then the biggest thing that we're working on right now is Extra Life, is November 7th. If you are in the Bay Area, we actually have a live venue to do the 24-hour stream, so we'd love it, absolutely love it, if you came to hang out with us at D20 Games in Alameda, California. And
a whole bunch of us will be there.
Yeah, you're going to be there, right? I'm going to be there. Kenny, the Gingerbeard Man, is probably going to be there, as well as some other regulars on the Nerdy Nights Radio show. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You'll get to meet us all in person. There should even be t-shirts for you to get. And we have some really freaking awesome prizes that we're giving away. All you have to do to be entered to get one of these prizes is donate at least $5, and you get like a little raffle ticket for the prizes. And my favorite prize that we're giving away, I went and got a PlayStation 1, original PlayStation 1, in complete working order, controllers, cords, everything. And I took it to Kinda Funny Live this year and got it signed by a bunch of people. We've got Greg Miller's signature, Colin Moriarty's, Tim Geddes, Nick Scarpino, and then a couple of IGN people as well. We've got Marty Sleva and Andrew Goldfarb's signature on there. So it's a really awesome prize, and I'm looking to add a game to go with that prize package. So everyone's kind of tweeting games that they would like for their original PlayStation 1. So tweet at BeRidiculous for that, and we'll see what game goes with it.
I have one game for my original PlayStation 1.
Oh yeah? Which one?
Parasite Eve 2.
Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah,
That's a good game.
I love that game. I love that game. I can't even play it anymore, but I love it.
No, that's a good game. That's a good game. I approve, Amanda.
Like,
Go you.
all right, so until next week.
Excelsior.
Are we saying it? Excelsior.
Yeah, there was a long pause. Do we want to try it again?
Are we gonna try and do it at the same time again?
If you just say until next week, I'll say Excelsior with you when you start saying it.
Okay. Ready? And until next week.
Excelsior. I think that worked out well.
Right.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna make it work. Just for you, Stanley. Just for you. We're gonna make it work. I almost ended the call with you instead of stop the streaming. It's like, and we're done. Bye.